Greetings again. This is Jace Hargis for the fifth of the series in 5 videos. This will be on emerging instructional technology. This particular video series will actually have multiple parts to it. I'll try to break it down into theoretical, blended learning, Web 2.0, and possibly some hardware ideas. Keeping in mind that all of these are suggestions, highly contextual, and my point is trying to provide ideas from which faculty can take or not take based upon who they are, their comfort level, their experience, and ultimately their students. So the idea of emerging instructional technology, there's a few key players in this world, and if you'd like to know, those players would be EDUCAUSE and the NMC, the New Medium Consortium. Every year they come together and partner, and they create what's called the Horizon Report. It comes out in the spring of every year. This is a great little report if you want to get up to speed very quickly, in that it talks about near and far future predictions. And so what's going to happen in the next year, the next 3 to 4 years, and 5 years in higher education, educational technology. Once again, you can either look at this and plan for the future, realize that you're doing some, or try to make some use of what they think is on the near horizon. EDUCAUSE NMC Horizon Report. One idea that I'd like to make very clear is that there's lots of misunderstandings about distance learning, online learning, distributed learning, blended learning, hybrid learning, and pretty much they're all just kind of names that mean very different things to different people. I'll be focusing on one central concept called blended learning. And the main reason why we focus on blended learning is because it can then ultimately constitute a portion of other types of learning. So in a blended environment, that simply means that you're using technology in a way and in support of a face-to-face environment. So for instance, you might meet every day face-to-face or a couple times a week and have students operate outside of class using technology, possibly a course management system like Blackboard or Moodle or Sakai, or you might have them do Web 2.0 tools, simulations, all types of possibilities, but these could be in addition to a traditional course. Now, blended learning may mean also that you're doing some of your course outside, some inside, but all of this really has to do with the philosophy that we're going to take in that developing products, or what we call e-learning objects, in a format that can be used in a blended environment or in an in-class environment, empowers the faculty member to then use those objects in any way that he or she would like to. So they could ultimately use them only in a class, they could use them outside of class, or after they've built up a substantial amount of these, they could then, if they choose to, they could develop and deploy that particular course in a full online environment. As far as resources, I mentioned EDUCAUSE earlier. One of the primary resources you might think about is using their website, specifically a particular portion of it that is called 7 Things You Need to Know About. The 7 Things site basically puts information about specific information on wikis, blogs, podcasts, Second Life, you name it, it's out there, and it basically gives you 7 things. You know, what is it? Why would I use it? What's being done? How can I use it in the classroom? So it's a very specific way to look at this. It's a 2-page summary, so you might want to look at that to see if somebody has done some work in the area that you're looking to use technology, or if you're starting to investigate a new area. It's a nice, easy, quick way to get up to speed on something. Like any good scholar, evidence is the key. So I'd like to share with you some evidence-based practices that have been performed over the past decade. Over 1,000 different studies have shown, indicate the following. First of all, students who took all or part of their class, so that could be a blended environment, online, performed significantly better than those taking face-to-face. For many people, that's a difficult topic to understand, a difficult topic to agree with. It's data, the data's there. I encourage you to go out and look at that. But what it basically showed is that the students were performing, spending more time on task, their quality of products were richer, and they ultimately made better connections because they became involved. They spent more time outside of class on something that they could actually do that meant something to them. The studies apply across the board. It applies to undergrad, graduate courses, professional, and across many disciplines. So one could ask, is this online blended learning environment beneficial? I'll share a few ideas of what's been seen. First of all, it does attend to individual learning styles. It can be available and accessible to people at different times, at different places. It advances the idea of information processing. It gives some solid ideas from short-term to long-term. Differential engagement, both in how much I engage, how I engage, is available to them. This idea of time, it gets a bit fuzzy, so redistribution of time, both how much time I put into it, how much time I can put into it, as well as across time zones. And obviously, we look at it as this is a nice acclimation for future careers, in that most of our students will be operating in some sort of an online environment. Most professional development in the careers are done now through the web base. For those faculty who are interested in doing more online work and even work in a blended environment, there is some research out there that shows some basic steps that you may want to think about before you do this. Judith Bochner has come out with some idea for some steps that may be taken. I'll just list those 10 steps very briefly. The first one is that they encourage the professor to be present. That means you have to have some announcements, you have to have some presence on that website. If you're not present, the students will not be. You have to create a community, a learning community, which means you have to have reasons and rationale for those to be there. Some people will check statistics on time spent on the web. It's probably more important to give them things to do and engage in. Clearly represent your expectations. If your expectations are out there early on as far as how much time you expect them to spend on the class, how much time you will be on the website, they tend to address those very well. Vary your experiences from not just text-based, but some web-based, some graphics-based, some video, some audio. That helps with their attention as well. The fifth step is you want to offer both a synchronous and asynchronous environment. Allow them times to obviously do things on their own time, but also allow possibly some virtual office hours or virtual chats. Ask for feedback frequently, and you can do this anonymously with many of the survey tools. The feedback taken early, you can make some modifications in your online course a little differently than your face-to-face. Provide discussions, discussion boards, both for them to interact and for you to interact with them and intervene. Definitely talk and lend towards a lot of the learners' access. You want to make sure that they're available to access the different tools, whether it be certain things they need to download, software, JavaScripts, etc. Be conceptual in your thinking, think broad in a framework and fill those in, and obviously plan for a good closing. This is something that happens so that when you wrap it up, they don't feel left hanging. You can have that closing happen weeks in advance. So that was a brief introduction of theory, very brief introduction. So once again, if you could for me, please jot down one thing that you might, a summary of what you've found in that. Secondarily, one idea that you might use. And then ultimately, one word that describes how you feel. Thank you.